You don't remember when it began. Not really. All you know is that the world has always felt a little too loud, like music turned up past the point of clarity, like an echo that never finds its source. Ooh is beautiful, sure. Candy kingdoms, singing rainbows, talking unicorns, a world stitched from scraps of childhood imagination. But beauty can be loud too, blinding, relentless. And in the middle of all that noise, there's you, a girl who lived too long, loved too deeply, and lost more times than anyone should have to learn how to. You don't get a normal beginning. No fairy tale childhood, no warm house with soft lights in the windows. You get ruins, you get fire, you get the world ending before you even understood what world meant. And years later, centuries later, you are still here. Still holding the melody of something you can't forget. Still playing like you're trying to keep a memory alive. You are a song that never got to finish. You wake up again, not from sleep. You don't really do that anymore. You just come back to awareness, like a radio slowly tuning itself in. Your body remembers how to move before your mind remembers why. Another day, another version of you, another performance of the same old song. People think being a vampire makes you powerful, immortal, untouchable. But immortality isn't strength. It's repetition. It's the same sunrise you don't watch. The same songs you keep rewriting. The same memories you swear you'll stop digging up until you don't. You laugh it off, of course, because irony is easier than honesty. A sarcastic smirk is easier to hold than the truth burning at the back of your throat. So you play the role, the cool one, the reckless one, the one who pretends none of it matters, because mattering hurts. And in this world made of bubblegum wars and magical kingdoms and talking conveniences, everyone assumes your pain must be aesthetic, something stylish, something poetic. But the joke is that the sadness isn't pretty. It's not dramatic. It's not romantic. It's just quiet, a dull ache that lingers behind your ribs. Like a song stuck in your head that you don't want, but can't forget. You've lived long enough to know that everything ends. Cities, friendships, people, warmth. And so, somewhere along the line, you learn to end things first, to walk out, to push away, to pretend you don't care, because losing someone by choice hurts less than watching them fade on their own. So welcome to the joke. You're the one who sings about feelings, but you're terrified of having any. You're the one who outlasts everyone, but you still don't know what to do with the time. You're the vampire queen, sure, but mostly, you're tired. Before the music, before the wings, before the throne you never asked for, there was just a child, small, hungry, alone in a world that had already burned. The sky was red back then, not from sunsets but from fire. From the quiet collapse of everything people once called normal, you didn't get fairy tales. You got survival. You learned how to navigate ruins the way other children learned playgrounds. You learned how to read silence the way they learned songs. And somewhere in that endless wasteland, you found him, Simon, a man who was trying so desperately to save a world already gone. A man who loved you, not because he had to, not because you were useful, but because you were small and scared and real. He held your hand. He carried you when you were tired. He tried to make you laugh even when his own voice shook. And then the crown took him, not all at once. Piece by piece, like someone slowly erasing a person you loved from the world but keeping their face. You didn't understand it. You didn't have the words. You just knew that the man who sang to you was disappearing while still standing right in front of you. And it broke something, not loud, not dramatic, just quietly and permanently. The kind of break that becomes part of your shape, so you learn to pretend, to keep moving, to speak through jokes and songs and sharp little smiles. Because the world taught you early, love is not lost all at once. It fades, it warps, and it leaves you holding the memory like a ghost you still talk to. And that's the truth you never really grew out of. You are not afraid of monsters. You are afraid of watching someone become one, and you are terrified of becoming one yourself. So you keep your distance. You build walls instead of homes. You choose sarcasm instead of confession, because being remembered hurts. And forgetting hurts more. You are a ghost, not because you died, but because you learned how to survive. The world keeps turning, not because it means something, just because it doesn't know how to stop. And you move with it, not living, just continuing. Your days don't look dramatic from the outside. No tragic orchestra, no storm clouds announcing despair, just routines, wandering, watching, playing the same song on the same old bass, in a room that echoes the same way every time. You float through ooh like a ghost no one realizes is haunting the place. They see the music, the attitude, the teeth. They don't see the stillness underneath. Most days it feels like you're performing yourself, like you're playing a character named Marceline, whose emotions were written by someone who never had to live them. So you laugh at things that aren't funny. You pretend nothing gets to you. You make everything look effortless, because effort is vulnerability. And vulnerability is a door, and doors lead to loss. So you keep everything just out of reach, even the things you want, especially the things you want. Someone calls your name. Someone jokes. Someone offers closeness. You shrug it off, not because you don't care, but because you care too much. And caring has consequences. Immortality turns days into loops, loops into cycles, cycles into prisons. Everyone else changes. You watch friends grow up, grow old, move on, you stay. And the world keeps replacing itself. New wars, new kings, new tragedies disguised as cartoons. But the ache doesn't update. The ache is always current. Some days you try to forget. Other days you try to remember. Neither works, so you float. You play music. You pretend the silence is peace instead of loneliness. Another day ends. Another one begins, and nothing changes. That's the curse of living forever, not the fangs, not the hunger, not the shadows, the repetition, the slow realization that the world will never match the version of it you keep alive in your heart. So you keep singing it instead, because songs are the only things that stay. You've had enemies, sure, demons, warlords, things with teeth sharper than yours, but those were easy. Hit them, blast them, sing at them until they cry. Problem solved. The real enemies were quieter. Memory, attachment, time, the ones you can't stab. The ones you can't chase out of a kingdom. The ones that live under your skin. Everyone thinks your biggest conflict is the vampire stuff. The wings, the hunger, the ancient power humming behind your eyes. But that's not the monster you're afraid of. The monster is the part of you that remembers how hard you tried to love people who were already disappearing. Simon, Bubblegum, anyone. You let close enough to matter. They weren't villains. They were just fragile, and fragile things don't do well with immortality. So your life became a pattern. Let someone in. Watch them fade. Pretend it didn't hurt. Repeat. And somewhere along the way, the world decided that made you cool. As if distance was a style choice. As if heartbreak was an accessory. As if loneliness was something you curated on purpose. But you know better. You don't push people away because you're untouchable. You push them away because they touch you too deeply, because loving someone means letting them take a piece of you. When they go, and you've lost enough pieces already, so you face your enemies the way you face your feelings. Dramatically, sarcastically, and only after running from them for as long as possible. But the truth always catches up. In the middle of a concert, in the quiet after a joke, in the echo of a memory you didn't invite, that moment when the guitar fades and your voice cracks just a little. That's the real battle. Not monsters, not villains, just the fear of being seen and left again. And you know how it ends. Not with a scream, with a sigh. Ooh, it's beautiful, but not in a comforting way. It's beautiful the way a fever dream is beautiful, colorful, loud, unstable. A candy kingdom run by a perfectionist scientist. A vampire queen who sings about grief. A hero who never stops running because stopping would mean thinking. 1,000 creatures smiling like they don't understand mortality. And maybe they don't. The world feels stitched together by someone who was trying to remember what joy looked like, but had never actually felt it. Everything here is charming. And everything here is 1 inch away from disaster, and you live right in the middle of it, not because you chose to, but because there's nowhere else to go. Peace doesn't last here. Not because no one wants it, but because no one knows how to hold it. Something always breaks. Someone always leaves. The candy melts. The magic fades. The music stops. And every time things calm down, everyone smiles like it's normal. Like the quiet isn't just the space before the next collapse, but you feel it, the tension, the waiting, the sense that everything good is temporary, especially the soft parts. So you don't trust peace. You don't relax when things are calm. Calm feels like a trick. Calm feels like a held breath. Because whenever you let yourself believe in safety, the world reminds you it has teeth, so you keep your guard up. You never sink fully into joy. You stay a little distant even in rooms full of people who love you, because peace here is not a home. It's an intermission, and you've lived long enough to know something's always coming. A memory, a mistake, a goodbye. A monster shaped like someone you miss. Ooh, is bright and colorful and happy. And it is exhausting, because it asks you to smile with everyone else, even when you can feel the floor trembling underneath. Time doesn't move for you the way it does for everyone else. For most people, life is a line. Beginning, middle, end, moments that stack, grow, build toward something. But for you, it's a circle. The same feelings, the same fears, the same songs played to different audiences. You keep thinking things have changed, that you've grown, healed, moved on. But then something small happens. A scent, a melody, a familiar look in someone's eyes, and suddenly, you're back in the memory, like you never left. Immortality isn't about living forever. It's about reliving forever. Every version of you still exists inside you. The child holding a toy in a burning world. The teenager pretending anger is strength. The woman who keeps choosing love and calling it a mistake. They all speak at once, and you keep telling yourself the same lie. It doesn't affect me anymore. But it does. It always has. You're trapped in the loop of what you remember and what you refuse to let yourself feel, and yet, you keep trying. You write new songs. You try new versions of yourself. You open the door just a little more each time. You want connection. You want softness. You want to be understood without needing to perform the explanation, but wanting something doesn't break the loop, so you learn to live with it instead. You laugh when you should cry. You run when you should stay. You joke when the silence is asking for truth, and everyone calls it character, but you know better. It's armor. It always has been, because if you ever stop pretending, if you ever let the truth out completely, it will demand something from you, something real, something irreversible, and you're not sure you can survive that. So the loop continues. Same ache, different day, and you call it life, because what else is there to call it? There are moments when it feels like everything has finally settled. The music is soft, the room is warm. Someone you love is close enough to touch, and for a second you think maybe this is it. Maybe the story finally stops hurting here. You let yourself breathe. You let your shoulders drop. You let the world feel gentle, and it is for a while, but peace has never promised permanence. Not to you, not in this world, not in any version of it. So the moment slips. Something shifts. A word hits too close. An old memory rises like a ghost standing in the doorway, and suddenly the quiet becomes sharp. You realize that endings don't happen all at once. They unravel slowly. They fray like old fabric. They fade like music at the end of a song. You don't get closure. You get echoes, a laugh that lingers, a song that hurts to play, a look that meant everything and passed too quickly to hold. And that's the cruelest part of surviving. You keep the endings no one else remembers. Everyone else gets to move on. You stay in the epilogue, rereading the same chapters, trying to understand what went wrong and when. You tell yourself it didn't matter, that you're fine, that you don't care. But there's a reason the songs always come. Back to the same chords. There's a reason silence feels heavier than sound. There's a reason happiness feels like something borrowed, like something that will eventually be asked to return itself. The end isn't loud for you. It's not dramatic. It doesn't break with fire and screaming skies. It's quiet. It's a soft goodbye said in a different room. A door closing gently. A memory choosing to stay, and then life continues. Not because you choose it, but because it does. You wake up again. You tune the strings. You play the song. And somewhere in that melody, the version of you that loved still lingers. Not gone. Not healed, just softer. A bruise instead of a wound, and you learn to live with that too. And now we arrive here. The part where you and I stop pretending this was just entertainment. because you didn't watch this by accident. Something in this story found you. Maybe it wasn't the setting. Maybe it wasn't the characters. Maybe you've never fought a monster or crossed a doomed timeline, but the ache? That part you recognized instantly. The longing for something you can't quite name. The feeling of moving forward while a part of you is still standing somewhere behind. The quiet grief of being a person in a world that does not slow down. We don't watch tragic characters because we enjoy their suffering. We watch them because we recognize ourselves inside the cracks. We see our own unfinished sentences, our almosts, our what-ifs. That's the curse of the audience. You're safe from the story, but the story is never safe from you. Because the moment you understood them, even a little, you became a part of the narrative too. You carry their choices, their mistakes, their memories that were never yours, but still somehow hurt like they were. And now you have to decide something. Do you walk away unchanged? Or do you let the story make a home in you? Be careful. Stories that feel like this don't leave quietly. They stay in the music you replay at 3 a.m. They sit in the passenger seat when you drive alone. They appear in the people you try to love. They echo in the silence after a goodbye. Not every tragedy ends in destruction. Some end in recognition. Some end in understanding. Some end here, with you. Watching, knowing you're no longer just watching. So if this felt familiar, too familiar, you're not broken. You're just in the part of your story where the lesson hasn't revealed itself yet. Keep walking. You will understand later. Until then, you're not alone here. I see you. I always have.